Okay, today I want to talk about secondary gadgets. Let's go over the functionality of some of them. Let's talk about maybe the history of some, the balancing between them, and how they influence the balance on certain operators against other operators, things like this. Okay, so attackers and defenders, of course, have different secondary gadgets. The attackers have frag grenades, smoke grenades, stun grenades, claymores, breach charges, and hard breach charges. Defenders have varying access to shield, deployable shields, impact grenades, nitro cells, barbed wires, bulletproof cameras, and proximity alarms. So, what is this chart you're looking at? Well, I just use ones to indicate if the operator has access to it, and if the cell is blank, then they don't have access to it. Every operator has access to 2 different secondary gadgets. They can only equip one at a time. And the way the game works out and the way they're balanced, there are just some that are way better than others. Some, there's sort of a choice between them, but a lot of them there's not. So there's sort of, I would put them into 3 different tiers on both attack and defense. So on attack, frag grenade is king. If you have access to a frag grenade, you'll take it over anything. The only exception is Glaz, because smoke grenades work so well with this kit. You probably, if you're playing Glaz, that means you're focusing your strategy around Glaz, so you need the smoke grenades to make Glaz effective. Besides that, I mean, you're always going to take it on Sledge, Finka, Maverick, Nock, Yana, all of them. Yana has access to smokes as well, and I'd say smokes are probably the second best gadget, although that's a little bit questionable now with the stun change, but anyways, let's just finish what I was talking about. The next tier of gadgets for attack would be smoke and stun grenades. They lost out on a lot of their functionality with the way metas have played out, the way operators have been rolled out. They're usually anymore, or they used to be, you know, in a previous meta, the 20-second meta, or however you would like to call it, that hard gadget meta, where you would just stack Wamai discs and Jaeger ADSs to stop explosives from destroying things, and then you would just bring like bulletproof gadgets, basically, like Maestro's Evil Eyes and Malusi's Banshees and deployable shields specifically. But now stuns have been buffed and they're really, really powerful. You get 3 of them. Smokes are the only like visibility denying thing you have access to on attack. In addition to, I guess, Captel's like firebolt, or not the smoke bolts, but I mean that's also smokes. And I don't think there's anything else that's gonna obscure vision of besides flashing somebody, but something that you throw onto the environment to stop their vision. Okay. So yeah, smokes and stuns about equal value. Smokes definitely used to be better, I would say, but it's now questionable which is better, and you get 3 stuns. So if you are using them to clear Aruni gates, Wamai discs, or Jaeger ADSs, you get more, so it's better in that way. But smokes are very powerful gadgets. Okay. Stun grenades. Yeah, I mean, I just talked about it. You might also know them. You might call them flashes, but whatever. Claymores, breach charge, and hard breach charge are just sort of the low tier. The only time you take one of these is if you do not have access to any of these. So, as I was alluding to earlier, I suppose the only interesting choices you're making is when you have access to both smoke and stun. You choose between them, and that's only the case on what? Just Thermite and what, Dokubi? Yeah. So, only 2. And then the other time you might make a somewhat interesting choice is when you are choosing from Claymore, Breach Charge, Hard Breach Charge. Hard Breach Charge are pretty rare because they're not on very good operators. I mean, Montaigne, Fuse, Buck's alright, but he gets access to stun, so it outclasses it. So in terms of operators that you actually make the choice on, I mean, there's Capital, but he's also not that common of an operator. And then like Zero, he's also kind of good, but Nomad sort of outclasses him, so you usually see Nomad instead, who has access to stuns. So yeah, you make the choice. High tier play, you don't usually bring the Claymore. If you're playing at low tier play, you can catch people with the Claymore a lot of the time, I'm sure, or it just deters them or whatever. At high tier play, there's usually ways to get impact grenades can get around them, but even just in a lot of locations, you're able to just shoot it. There's just some places you can't, but there's a lot of places you can. And then, so generally, breach charge is the most useful. It's just sort of a backup way to do like vertical play. If you don't have Sledge or Buck for some reason, you didn't bring them, I guess, but usually if they die, then you have breach charge as a backup. Or, if they bring Castle or, I don't know, whatever it is, breach charge has some utility. Okay, defender gadgets. Shield is just by far the best. It's one of the few gadgets that has had a secondary gadgets that has had like a significant change to it. Like Nitro Cell, pretty much the same thing always. Maybe the arc was changed at some point. Like you can't throw it as well as you used to, but I don't actually remember for certain. And like stun grenades got the change recently where you always get full flashed for a varying amount of time based on proximity and how much you're looking at it and stuff. But like frag grenades always been the same. Claymore same. hard breach charge is new, but I don't think it's really been changed. Breach charge actually got that significant rework where they get deployed more quickly, and I think you only used to have 2 a long time ago, if I'm remembering right. And then their explosion is much bigger. Whatever. Shields, they added these slits in them, so if you are a defender, you're sitting on a shield, you can see the attackers, and if you're sitting still on the shield, it's really hard to see you. And then even if you're moving a little bit, it's still hard to see you behind the shield. So they, have to figure out that you're behind the shield with a drone usually. You could face check it, but that means you're probably just gonna die because they have peeker's advantage and they can see you and you can't really see them. Okay, shields didn't used to be that good. There were some places where you could put them pretty close to like a wall or something, and you could get a little pixel angle going, and there was some like cheese uses, like put it next to a window to deny jump through, things like this. But so they used to be not that good. And then even, way back when, there was no bulletproof camera, there was no proximity alarm, and there was no impact grenades. It was only barbed wire, nitro cell, shield. Shields were a lot worse. Barbed wire is a lot better because you had to 3-hit them, and they reduced your speed more. It's, I think, a 45% reduction now, or rather, it's 45% reduction movement speed now. It used to be a 50%. People think it's like, feels like a big difference, but and again, it was a long time ago, but just 5%. But it's noticeable, sure. Okay, so right, shield is in a tier of its own. Impact grenades and nitro cells. If you're trying to get a kill, nitro cell's way better. Impact grenades you can kind of kill people with, but it's just not an effective way to do it. You have to hit them like pretty much directly with 2 of them in most cases. Impact grenades, though, it's just really useful. You get to throw them a lot more quickly than a nitro cell. They blow up right away. You get 2 of them. So if you are trying to make rotates, if you are trying to impact trick, so you can set up a rotate on site, or even if you're a roamer, if you need to quickly make a rotate, if you want to blow up a door or window and go outside really quickly to go for a kill, impact grenades. It's just very versatile. Nitro cell is very powerful, but you only get 1, and it can be sort of predictable to play against. But if you're doing like a play where you're below somebody, there's no contest. The nitro cell is the only thing you're gonna be able to kill them with reliably. Shooting them is just not very much of an option if you can't, assuming you can't see them. So you can pulse them out, or you can like predict that they're there. But if you just predict someone, you're gonna have to be really precise with a gun. But nitro cell, it's they just have to be pretty well there. So there's a little bit of a choice there, taking impact or nitro cell. But again, not that many operators in this situation. Valkyrie generally will take the C4 because she is an information ops. She gathers info with the cameras to help her use the C4. Cap can not play that much, and then like Malusi and Thunderbird, I guess those are actual good operators, and it just depends what you need. If you want, they're both 3 speeds, so maybe they're on the roam and you want the impact grenade to quickly make yourself a rotate, or you are put in a position where you need to impact trick something, or otherwise maybe you're just taking the C4. And then the last 3 gadgets: barbed wire, bulletproof camera, proximity. Bulletproof camera still hasn't been changed, except for the fact that now you punch it, and before it just destroyed it, right? Now, if you punch it on the front, it just blinds it. So it got like a buff, I guess, but they're also supposed to implement the thing where it has you can like turn it a little bit, and it has a laser, so that should be a big buff if and when that actually comes to fruition, but hasn't really been changed otherwise. Proximity is still really new, but and they're hardly seen, but again, it's just a result of what operators are on. Castle, Rook, Kavira, Mira. Mira's a good operator, but she's banned a lot and also has access to a C4. And then Goyo, Wamai, Oryx. So the only operators that is even a choice on are like, that they don't have the other 3 really good gadgets are Oryx and I guess I just have a Bard. So there's actually Oryx, Aruni, or well, not for proximity, but for any of the gadgets. For proximity, it's just Oryx or it's Tachanka. Yeah, it's Tachanka, right? No. Who's the other operator? Where is it? Oh, yeah. Or castle. But again, you don't see that much castle. Okay, so... that's all the gadgets, I suppose. Now let's look at some of the combinations and which operators have the good gadgets. So I have all the combinations listed, and you can see they're pretty well spread out. All of them are between 1 and 3, except for Frag plus Breach and Claymore plus Breach. There's just a ton of Claymore plus Breach for whatever reason. And then Frag plus Breach is also, it's just not a thing for whatever reason. This, I think maybe at the very beginning of the game, Thermite definitely had frag grenades, and I think it was Breach Charge was his other choice. So it was a thing at one point on at least Thermite, if I'm remembering that right. Ops with throwables, 22. Keep in mind there are 31 attackers currently in the game, and there are 30 defenders currently in the game, so that's quite a lot. And of course, if they don't have throwable, that just means they have 2 of the 3 bad gadgets. So there's only 9 attackers that actually don't have access to any throwable. So not that many. And again, as I was showing, it's just sort of a lot of the not very good operators, not very popular or highly picked operators. So how many operators have frag grenades? How many have shields? The 2 best in the game, and they sort of counteract each other. Or at least, well, frag grenades are used to deal with shields because shields are just that good, and frag's the only secondary gadget that can clear it. Okay. Sledge, Glaz, Finka, Maverick, Knock, Yana. Only 6 in total. Not very many, and they try to keep it to a certain number for whatever reason. I mean, because if you want to, of course there's 6 and you only have 5 slots on an attacking lineup, so you can just take 10 frag grenades if you want, but it comes at a cost because some of them aren't questionable operators. Like, Nox, not very utilitous, nor is Glaz. And so, I mean, if you really wanted to take the best lineup with a bunch of frags, you just take all of these except for Glaz, I suppose. But they like to keep it to a certain number, like Dokkaebi, IQ, Thermite. They used to have frags, and they gave it up for various, like, I think Thermite lost it, and then IQ got it, and then I think maybe IQ lost the frags, and then they went to Dokkaebi, and then, like, Dokkaebi lost it, and they went to Finka, and then maybe Finka lost it, and it went back to, anyway, they switched around. I think maybe an operator lost it when Yana came out. I mean, Yana's always had frags, so was Nox, so was Maverick. Finka had them, lost them, got them back. Glaz, they were given to him at some point. Sledge has always had them. Okay, shields. Smoke, I think, has always had the shield. I don't, maybe not, because at the very beginning of the game he had C4, and I don't remember if it was instead of barbed wire or shield, so maybe he hasn't always had it. Tachanka recently added the shield on. Frost, I think, always had it. Echo had it, lost it, got it back. Ella might always have had it, but maybe not, because she had impacts once upon a time, I think, when she first came out. So again, I don't know if that was instead of barbed wire or shield. Alibi, I believe, has always had it, and Warden's had it since he came out as well. So 7 shields, 6 frags. Could they stand to add more frags? Probably. I mean, maybe the next operator they come out with isn't, well, I mean, they just had Flores and Osa as the last 2, which are pretty ridiculous attackers. Maybe the next one's toned down a little bit, but it has frags. Or, I mean, you could put frags on other operators as well. I think they try not to overload the kits. Like, they don't have frags on anyone that has explosives otherwise, or as their primary gadget, I should say, because Finka and Yana do have the Gon 6, so they do have another explosive, but again, not their primary gadget. Like, they don't have frags on Zofia or Ashe, or, I guess that's pretty well it for, or Callie, I guess, has sort of like an explosive thing. Flores, yeah, they don't put him on those. And in terms of shield, so shield is one of the things holding the meta in its current position right now. It sort of has a strength. It's not as absurd as when Jaeger's ADSs function differently and Wamai had like an additional magnet. So it's different from that. And also your frags aren't as overloaded because you can clear like Malushi's Banshees with by shooting it now. I suppose you could punch it, right? You could still punch it before, but that's very dangerous. Shooting it's a little bit less dangerous. And who's the other operator I just wanted to mention? Okay, I lost my train of thought a little bit. I was going to say another operator. They added a Rooney, which makes it a little bit more difficult, but... I just totally forgot who I was going to say in addition to Malusi. They made... Oh, yeah, no, I was going to say, and they added the Gon 6, so it also put less stress on explosives because you just can take another one by, quote-unquote, for free. Of course, you give up your pistol, but it's not giving up something in another more important slot. Right, if deployable shields were deleted from this game, would it then be attacker favored? Because for the longest time, it's been defender favored, and I mean, let's just talk about the pro maps for a little while. I mean, they've all been defensive favorite, except for maybe really small. Certain sample sizes have gotten an attacker-sided thing, or individual maps, of course. Sometimes they're just going to sway attacker unit. They're generally defender-sided. Coastline is usually slightly attacker-favored, and so is Chalet. But besides that, Consulate was pretty even, but it's gone now. Bank, I suppose, looks like it's an attacker-favored map, so we might have 3 attacker-favored and 4 defender-favored in the map, but Oregon, Clubhouse, Villa, Cafe, generally defender-sided. Clubhouse has been going more towards attack, and so has Villa, which in the past were really thought of as very strong defender maps, and they still are, but not as much as they used to be. But then Oregon is still sort of the absolute defender's bastion these days. Not in every single map played, of course, but generally speaking, yes. So what if shields were gone, or if they didn't work the way that they do now? If they went back to the old way, where they don't have the slits, so you can still sort of play behind it, and you can still peek with Peeker's advantage, but you won't. It'll be Peeker's advantage. Like, you won't just know where they are already and be like pre-firing or whatever. Would it go to do defender favor? Maybe not, but shields right now are such an integral part of almost every setup ever. Like, if you're playing, I mean, you always bring a shield. Shields are never bad. Maybe if you brought literally like 6 shields, 4 shield operators, and then Goyo, and I suppose Goyo gives you just one more operator that has another shield because it's his primary gadget. Like, maybe you'd run out of good spots for him, but it's still a good gadget. Like Cafe, if you're defending, say, Reading Room, you generally have a shield in Cocktail so that they can't push in on you easily. If you're defending top floor, you'll have one at Pixel usually. That spot in the corner of Cigar Lounge, that by bathroom, right? So I don't know, like, if they really wanted to sway the attacker-defender balance, I think they could look at shields first and foremost. It's one of the biggest things in the game right now. Maybe they don't want to do that because they have talked about, and as far as I understand, are still intending to do the thing where all the players pick their operators, and then attackers can switch operators during the drone phase, so you actually see what their setup looks like and whatever. And then you can switch operators, and a lot of people aren't on board with that. And maybe it'll be bad, but maybe it'll be good because it'll give attackers more incentive to drone in the prep phase. Usually, like, you just pre-place your drones. You try not to lose them because drones are so valuable, but you just deduce where they are. But one single drone can usually do that, or it might even be obvious depending on what's the current circumstances. But it give you more incentive to really go see what operators they have or what their setup is in particular places, and maybe it gives defenders more incentive to wait to set up some of their stuff and try to stay hidden and deny drones from actually getting close, because at a certain point you can just assume they're not going to come close because you will shoot them. At high level play, they won't bring the drones close because they know the enemies are, they're not going to miss the drones usually. They're gonna shoot them. Drones aren't that hard to shoot for a good player. So, right, if that comes into play, that might be enough to make it an attacker-sided game, or maybe the shield thing. And I guess since I just didn't talk about this before, let's just look over here. They're all between 1 and 3 as well, except for, I guess, just shield plus proximity and impact plus nitro and nitro plus barb. So they like to keep to those numbers for one reason or another. I guess it just gives you diversity in the game, and it's sort of like a balancing thing. To some extent. You just don't give the really good stuff to really good operators, except for they do sometimes, so, which is interesting. Not too terribly much. I mean, it's just like cool to look at what the stats are, but there's not that much meaning behind it. There is some, but of course not too terribly much. But as I was just saying, man, there's gonna be like nobody watching this. It's like 20 minutes in the video. Man, props to you, I guess, if you care about this much to listen to my ramblings about it. Right, Smoke is a good operator without the shield, but the shield puts him over the top, where you almost always will take him. He has the SMG-11, which is like the best offensive secondary gun, which enables him to bring a primary shotgun, and one of the better shotguns at that. And then his utility is one of only 2 that can do area denial on defense, and it's much more consistent and effective and easy to use than Tachanka's, the other operator that can do it. And yeah, he has a shield on top of it. Like Tachanka's pretty good, has a shield, but then you also have a like weaker operator like Echo. Not nearly as strong as he used to be, but you know, it's a little bit more risk reward kind of thing because they're easy to shoot. They can be killed without explosives, and they're not invisible or anything anymore, or well, almost invisible. Right, Frost generally thought of as a weaker operator, but over time she developed into sort of this utility operator where she had the shield, she has the secondary shotgun, she has like a decent gun, and then she has the gadget on top of it. Ella also not the strongest op, but the shield brings her up. Same thing with Alibi, and same thing with Warden. Okay. And then on attack, like Sledge is one of the best operators in the game, so maybe you take the frags, but this has been like a topic of much discussion among everyone in the game. They're like, oh my god, they took Buck's frags, so now Sledge is way better. But what if they took Sledge's frags too and they put it on a bad operator, you know, like what, or not even like bad, but like a less pick. What if they gave Gridlock Sledge's frags? At a point, it's really difficult because you have to take enough stuff to clear all the defender stuff. So they would have to tone down defenders as well. Like if they took the shield off like Smoke and I mean even just, yeah, I mean I guess Smoke's the best one that still has a shield. If you took it off Smoke and gave it to like Doc, then you're spreading out the really powerful utility. And so maybe you take off Sledge's frags and give it to somebody less picked, you know, give them back to Zero, or like I was, you know, like on Gridlock or whatever. Different ways you can do these things. But yeah, you do need to take a certain amount of stuff on attack to effectively deal with not only everything that they bring on defense, but everything that they could bring. So that's why you just always are picking the same lineup. You know, you always bring a Sledge because it's just he has frags, and he also has near unlimited soft destruction. You bring Yana because she has frags and a Gon 6, and then also she can gather intel. And then you always bring like Hibana, or well, you bring a hard breacher depending on what site, and maybe you don't bring it on like coastline, but otherwise you bring a hard breacher because Hibana's got a really versatile gadget, and she's got stuns, but Thermite can make a really big hole, and he's got stuns or smokes. Maverick can deal with walls that are electrified or muted, and he has frags. Okay, so at this point, I think probably I talked about most of what I want to talk about, and it feels like I'm just sort of rambling. You get the ideas though, like the tiers of secondary gadgets 1, 2, and 3, and then only 1 gadget operating in the top tier and 3 at the bottom, 2 in the middle, on both attack and defense. There are different combinations, but a lot of these combinations are invalidated by the fact that one is just so much better than the other. Like in an ideal world, all 6 gadgets have powerful applications in different situations, but they just don't. Like a frag grenade is just so much better than a hard breach charge. But you know, maybe in some other reality they could change that. Maybe you'll go down to 1 frag grenade, but then the game becomes more in bet. Right, okay, there's a lot of things you could do. You could give them 2 hard breach charges. I don't know, but okay. And is there anything else I want to recap here? Not too much. I guess I said my piece, and you can see all the stats. If you ever care to refer to this sort of thing, like if you want to just double check, oh, what do all these operators have as their gadgets? You can look at this. Not the prettiest thing to look at, but it is a way to confirm that. Easier than just going through every operator in the game like I did to do this, just to make sure I was 100% correct. So that's going to do it. I suppose I didn't say previously, but I'm going to call this critical siege theory, and I'm not going to say the number because I'm not 100% sure which number this would be. I think I know, but I'm just not going to say it. So this was a critical siege theory on secondary gadgets of operators.